We're live on YouTube now, and we're going to start the Lorain Port Authority Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, August 11th on 2020 at 7 p.m. Why don't we go ahead and start with roll call? So Yvonne normally does roll call, so I guess I'll.
Okay, it looks like we're
Kelsey,
live.
can you pull up the log sheet?
Oh yeah, I can do the log sheet here real quick.
Authority Board of Directors
Thanks.
for Tuesday, August 11th.
And you'll want to mute yourself too.
Yeah, I did. Sorry about that.
Roberto.
Okay, sorry guys. Roll call. Stephen Bancic.
Here.
Roberto Davila.
Here.
Matt Kuzner.
Here.
Bradley Mullins.
Here.
Carl Nielsen.
Back, here I am.
Neil Summers.
Here.
John Viard.
Here.
Jeff Zellers is absent. And Al Zagans.
Here.
8 present.
Okay, since we're doing a Zoom meeting, we'll skip the Pledge of Allegiance and move right into disposition of meeting minutes for July 14th, 2020. Any comments, changes, notes? Can I get a motion to?
None for me.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
By Mr. Summers, second.
I will second it.
And that was who, Alan?
Don?
John, okay, John. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Disposition of minutes, meeting minutes passed. We go into the report of officers. I understand, I have not received any correspondence, nor have I talked with Tom, but I understand we have a marketing presentation by Cecilia Dillon, our port intern. It's a marketing study results. So Cecilia, I'm going to turn over to you.
Hi, so I just want to introduce myself. My name is Cecilia. I'm going to be a senior at Ashland University and a marketing major, and I was the summer's intern for the Port Authority. One of my projects that Tiffany gave me was to send out a survey to kind of get a feel of how the public really views the port and what we do here. So I will share some of the results that I got from that survey. So this is the marketing survey results. So this was kind of what I did the participants wise. We only got around 103 responses on average, so not as much as I would have quite liked to get. So this is kind of the first slide. So these graphs kind of show who took the survey, and these are the 3 questions that I asked to kind of get a feel for the demographics. So I did, are you a resident of the city of Lorain? Are you a resident of Lorain County? And then what is your relationship to the port? So the majority of the participants that took this survey, 57.3%, were not residents of the city of Lorain, but 79.6% of the participants were residents of Lorain County. And then 86.4% of participants attended some sort of port sponsored event, or they visit one of our facilities. So this was a kind of questions that I did along for rental information. So the questions that were asked were, did you know you could rent our facilities? And then a list of the facilities. And then have you previously rented one of our facilities? So 64.7% of participants were aware that we offer rentals. However, 92.1% of them have never rented anything. And then these were questions regarding the website. So the questions asked were, how would you prefer to see information regarding Lorain Port Authority? How helpful do you find the port's website? And have you ever visited our website? So 69.3% of people prefer information via our social media platforms. 14.9% of people prefer to see information on the port. And then 98% of participants found the website neutral or very helpful. So we didn't really get any bad reviews in terms of our website, is what I found from that. So regarding our newsletter, 79.4% of people are not signed up for the newsletter. So I guess one of the questions you can ask is, how do we get more people to sign up so they can stay informed on port events and, you know, really how to be updated on things that we do here. So in terms of social media, do you follow our social media? This was kind of split pretty evenly. 64% of participants follow us on some sort of social media platform, but we really should work on trying to figure a way to get more people to follow on more platforms, since a lot of people prefer to see our stuff being put out on social media. So this is questions regarding the board, so you guys, and our funding. So how is the Lorraine Port Authority funded, and how are board members selected? So 54.5% of participants believe that LPA is primarily funded through economic development project revenues, and 32.3% of people think LPA is funded through property tax levies, and 67.3% of people do not know how the board is selected, which I think that we should do a better job of maybe communicating how our board is selected and, you know, what your guys' main role is. So these questions regarding what the Lorraine Port Authority does. So the questions asked were, what does the Lorraine Port Authority do? The Lorraine Port Authority has been involved in the following economic development, so select all that apply. And what type of organization is the Lorraine Port Authority? So 78.2% of people are aware that LPA helps fuel economic activities in Lorraine. Most people understand that LPA hosts fireworks and events such as like those in Lorraine. 37.3% of people think that LPA is a nonprofit, while 48% of participants think LPA is a government organization. And then 88.2% of people are aware that LPA was involved in the revitalization of Ariel and Broadway. So I was actually talking to me about that, and we were both kind of surprised about how many people knew that LPA was involved in the financing on that. So we kind of were talking about like how to get more people aware of the different financing projects we do, because a lot of people, when you ask them what do we do, they really think that it's like Rocket on the River International Festival and things like that. So is LPA helpful? So this was a 1 to 5 scale, and on a 1 to 5 scale, 5 being the best, 90.3% of people believe that LPA is performing at a 4 or above. So I think that's
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? It's just slow down a little bit because it's hard when you're hearing it through Zoom. So just slow down a little bit.
Yeah, sorry. So this was basically how helpful do you think the port is to the city of Lorraine? So on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, 90.3% of people believe that LPA is performing at a 4 or above. So I think that's really good. And then that was it for the questions that I did. So if there's any questions about any of the graphs or data, I'd be
Steve,
happy
you
to
have a
help.
question? You're on mute. You're on mute, Steve.
No,
There you go.
maybe I missed it. I was taking some notes. The information that you used to do the survey, where'd that come from?
Yeah,
The
so
contact list.
the email, so basically we sent it out on different social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and kind of tried to get answers that way.
So rather anonymous then.
Yeah.
And how many responses did you send out in total?
We had about 103 responses.
Right, I understand, but how many were sent out? Of the 103, were there 300, 500 sent out and only 103 responded?
Basically, so you just said, we sent the link out on all of our social media platforms, and whoever clicked the link and decided to take it, that's how it was sent out.
Okay,
So.
gotcha. Okay. It's interesting. It seems like there's still a, not an image issue, but a perception issue of what we do.
Certainly a stigma, for no doubt. I mean, some of the information is so broad spectrum that it's almost like 50% of the people took time to learn what we do, and the other 50%.
Yeah.
When you have a 1 on how helpful you think the port is to the city of Lorraine, and 2 people have the answer of a scale of 1 to 5 of 1. I mean, that's very small, but still, you would think that someone that would respond to a survey like this would at least have educated themselves, if not afterwards. I don't know.
Sure.
Interesting numbers, though.
Cecilia, can you send a copy of this to everyone in the board?
Yeah, just like over your guys' emails.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, I can do that.
just a deck of it all.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, any other questions, comments by board members? So do we want to take action on any of this? Is there any suggested action? Do we want to push this over to our marketing and public affairs to have them review or create some responses, or what do we want to do with it?
Brad, I would,
I would
go
like,
ahead.
I would like to. This is the type of education that I think should be a priority. If
I must have missed, let me have a quick question. I don't know if you said it because I was kind of moving around here. In the survey, did it indicate the age of the respondents?
It actually did not indicate the age. It just
Yeah,
indicated.
because I would say that probably those that are clicking on the link are probably like their 30s, 40s. I think the base of the 50s and 60s probably, and I'm not saying that they're not computer literate, but they're probably, when you have only about 100, you're looking at probably a demographic of probably in the 30s and 40s. I may be wrong, just,
well, for the Facebook portion, I would think that the age would level out a little bit more, but for Twitter and others, obviously there's going to be an age gap there, but every one of those people in that age gap is a potential voter, you would assume, right? 18 or older. So it's important that we educate them.
Absolutely. And I think that this was probably the starting point to that. And that's why we wanted to do this. We realized that we couldn't answer any of these questions. We didn't even know where we were starting. So we might as well start putting questions to paper, start getting answers, and then decide how do we need to fix the questions we're asking to make sure we're getting the answers that we need so that we can market to the right people and educate people on what we're doing. So this is a great starting point. I thought it was valuable for everyone to see this presentation, and however you want to take it from here. If you want to throw this to marketing and tweak the survey to make it better and more effective for us, we can definitely do that.
That was good information. I think it needs to be digested and probably, Steve, you guys go through it and look at how you want to respond and obviously tie into maybe some of our message on our website, what we're saying and what we're doing. And maybe that helps get out the word about who we are, right?
Yeah, and I won't put too much stock. That's a small percentage, 103 demographic. I mean, my degree's in business, and I've done a lot of survey, and that's a small percentage, but it's a good start. That's a small percentage, 103.
Most,
who knows?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying it's a small percentage. It's a good start. Maybe we can go from there and see if they can,
most
maybe
surveys
get a
are
bigger crowd.
Most surveys, if you want response and good response, are incentivized in some way as well. So as we think about what we want to do and what response we want to get, we need to think of what incentive we put out, whether it's for a $25 gift card to Doty's or whatever it may be. Everyone that responds with a valid email is put in for a drawing. That's how you get people to respond to surveys. I mean, you have to make a reward.
Yeah,
But I
give 'em a
think this
draw.
needs to be taken down and maybe not put under a microscope, but there's some pretty interesting questions as we go back a few slides of what public perception is. I've always joked that people don't know what county commissioners do either. So, that applies to us, obviously, in this case. People think that we put fireworks shows on and have, bands and parades.
No,
So-
I had a quick question. If you can, who remembers what percentage of the bond did it pass by?
For the
I'm
last
looking
one,
at that
you're talking
60.
about?
vote,
Yes, the last levy.
It was like 60%-ish.
So,
Yeah.
so that 65% is pretty
Yeah,
close. That's what I was looking at.
65-ish.
You see
So
that's- yeah.
Cecilia, one more question for you. How long was this, how long when you sent it out till you actually collected the information? Was it a week, a month? How long did you get?
I think it was around 3 weeks.
3 weeks? Okay, that's pretty substantial. Yeah, okay. Okay.
By chance, is it possible to collect the data on how many people clicked the link and didn't respond? I know with a lot of the Facebook sharing mechanisms and with the polls, I believe that there's a way to see on how many people actually viewed it. Would you be able to send that to us as well?
Yeah, I can figure that out and send it to you
That
guys.
would be interesting, Matt. That's a good point. Great point. Very good. Well, thank you for the information. Let's not let it go just, as a slide presentation and go away. Let's try to do something with it. So sounds
I'm
like.
excited to have something to do, so.
I got one last little question before we end it, but is there a way that we can get an age demographic of what's going on? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't do Facebook, I don't do Twitter, I don't do the social media. I haven't got time for that stuff.
Right,
So
I'm the
people
same way.
who are, intelligent as far as what we do aren't going to waste their time looking at that stuff. They have better things to do with their time. And it's a good start, but what other means can we get the message out besides just social media? I mean, do we got to do forced mailing, ads in the paper? People still read the paper, but I wouldn't even know that was on social media because I don't look at that stuff.
The
And
problem,
a lot
guys,
of people my
our
age
voters
don't
do.
it.
That's the problem that our voters do. And so that's, we got to figure out a way to get the word out. I think, there's a lot of good suggestions there. The
I just wonder what the age demographic of the ones that we did get, participated.
Sure.
In our next survey, you request that, what age
Exactly.
group,
Mhm.
We
do
did
your
not
age group.
request that this time,
Right.
so we won't know for this survey, but we can in the future.
Oh,
And
but this
also
is
what
a
we
good-
can do is start
Heck.
looking at the demographics of our social media, because Facebook, you can actually pull that information and know who is following you. So who is generally the person that might have seen this and taken it. So we can get a little bit of information, but not specifically for this survey.
So is anybody surprised by this?
A little bit. I am.
I was,
I am
yes.
surprised because my opinion is that the press that we have gotten over the last 3 years and the help from the Morning Journal that we have received with that press, if we read the paper, and I read the paper, I pay to have the plain dealer delivered to my house. I read the Journal online because I don't have a bird. And our message is out there. And it's been pretty consistent with what we do. We've received, I think we've received the credit for the project we've been involved in, kept our name up front. There's obviously behind the scenes things that we do, like the ferry boat and things that common people and ordinary people aren't going to know that we do. And I'm not a Facebook guy either, but that makes me part of the smaller part of percentage of people. But I think that this was pretty eye-opening, and we got a little bit of work to do. We're getting by on 3 to 1 with results like this. Imagine what our results would be if people actually knew what we did.
For sure.
When we're talking about not having to have a levy, this is one of the ways that we get there. Let more people know the positive things that we do that are not in the front of their mind, like concerts and fireworks and etc. I've said 100 times in our meetings that Bob Early kind of decided the personality of Black River Landing for us. We were stuck in a place where we weren't sure what we were going to be or where we were going to do it. And here's proof a couple years later that still people really don't know. So I look forward to taking this and working with y'all and running with it and getting some education and some information on it. And then doesn't even, the information will educate enough. I don't think we have to educate. I think we just share the information we have. I'd be interested to see how many people look at our board meetings online and see what we do. They're available to them. I think that'd be a great survey question.
Okay. I think we've got our homework, and we look forward to hearing back from you, Steve, and what you find out, what we're going to do with it.
I have one last question, actually. So Cecilia, since you developed this and have been working with the data, do you have any suggestions? I know that we're kind of pressed on time with you, and I think you're going to be leaving soon, but do you have any recommendations or suggestions on the direction that we should go with this information?
Yeah, so I really think just redeveloping another survey that maybe answers some of the more in-depth questions you have and really focuses on the demographics that you want to focus on. And again, like he said, with incentivizing and kind of getting a better feel for, like, obviously this was a small part of the community, maybe a wider area of the community and how they feel about you, and kind of take it from there.
I think there's probably an opportunity too to ask some more direct questions of the demographics and you know, one thing that really jumped out at me was more people in the county than in the city. But again, you know, it just, I guess it depends, you know, on you know, the
I
time
couldn't
you-
decide if that was good or bad,
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah,
If it was
yeah.
good that there was that many in the county, if it was bad.
Yeah.
I kind of struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right, good. Any other questions? Any information? I see Yvonne, you're back. Okay, great. All right. Economic Development Director, Tiffany.
Yes, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into the first thing, which this survey was a perfect segue into our conversation here tonight, which is part of our strategic plan. And that is updating our name from the Lorraine Port Authority for branding purposes, not legal purposes, but for branding purposes, from the Lorraine Port Authority to the Lorraine Port and Finance Authority. And I'm sure, as most of you remember, when we adopted our strategic plan, there was part of that was changing our name because of the confusion that we have with the Lorraine County Port Authority, and just in general, the confusion that has lays on every Ohio Port Authority. When you say port and people instantly think of, you know, airports, freighters, that's what they think of. They don't think that Port Authority is actually an economic development agency. And in Ohio, that's what they are, and that's what we're trying to become. So though we do things, and some of the survey shows that people recognize that we are doing these things, there's still a lot of confusion. And I think you see that with the one question specifically that jumped out to me, which I wasn't surprised by, was when we asked how many people think know that we do housing. And you know, you had almost 40% of people say, oh yeah, we know the Lorraine Port Authority does housing demolition. Which I'm just going to make very clear, we do not do housing demolition. That is the Lorraine County Port Authority. So it's just something, we get a call. I mean, Cecilia, you were taking a log for a little while of the number of calls that we get in regards to the County Port Authority and the amount of time, staff time that we spend sending people to the County Port Authority because they're confused. And we need to rebrand away from that so that we can be a more efficient agency in the development finance realm. So I'm just going to throw this up real quick, give you a quick preview of the potential. And really what we're looking for tonight is the blessing from the board to say, okay, we have been the Port Authority and will still be the Port Authority. We will still be called the Lorraine Port Authority, but for outside individuals, for people that we are beginning to work with, we are going to start rebranding ourselves as the Lorraine Port and Finance Authority. So people look at us as more than just the port agency that we are. So we have mocked up a new potential name into our current logo, same color scheme, same logo, all of that. We're not really getting into a whole big rebranding thing here. Just in general, we're looking at taking this and updating our name. So hopefully we can really start to separate ourselves out and educate people on who we are. So I'm gonna open this up for discussion on what people think and if we can move forward with this or what everyone's thoughts are.
So board members, you see that Tiffany's put up the new name change. I did note here that the logo is still pretty much the same. And I'll be honest with you, when they first presented it to me, I had a little bit of anxiety over it. But the more I thought about it, and after looking at that survey, I think it's probably something that we should give some serious consideration to, because we need to identify ourselves. And I've had numerous conversations. Obviously, I work outside the county, but people, when they hear about the Lorraine Port Authority, they don't differentiate between us and Lorraine County Port Authority. And so I think some of the good deeds and some of the good things that we're doing, they don't necessarily associate it with the city of Lorraine or the county. So any other questions or comments from anybody before I take this to a motion? Anyone at all? Can I get a motion to approve changing the Lorraine Port Authority's name to the Lorraine Port and Finance Authority?
I would make that motion.
I'm sorry, who made that motion?
I would make that motion, Chairman Mullins.
Okay.
I would second.
So Mr. Nielsen made the motion, Mr. Bancek seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. You have your new name.
Very exciting. Thank you, everyone. We'll start to get that pushed out onto everything, and we're really going to push that people recognize us and that we will become better known for individuals coming to us for financing. So it's a good step in the right direction.
So Tiffany, just a quick question on that. How much have we figured any costs in for changing our name, logos, you know, the name on the front of the building, the name on the top for the stage?
We've started to, absolutely. So some of the things that we've already taken into consideration, Tom and I have talked about, we are not going to immediately, you know, throw out all of our business cards that we have printed. We're not going to throw everything out today. We're just not going to do it. What we're going to start doing is changing things out as we go. So what you're going to start noticing is that, you know, if we put memos out, it's going to be on new letterhead. When we put out marketing materials, you're going to see the new name being used. The name on the building will be updating. Legally, we're still going to be the Lorraine Port Authority by all means. We're not going through an actual legal name change, but we're not going to immediately throw everything out. We still have some, you know, shirts and whatnot that do have the Port Authority. However, we're printing new stuff. It's going to be with the new name on it. So you'll see that kind of stuff start to come out as we transition over. So yeah, it's gonna be coming very quickly here. We've actually been working on this. Cecilia's been working on mocking things up with the new name. Granted, everyone here went ahead with it. We're gonna start getting all that printed out. So you'll see this coming very quickly. We've been getting things in the pipeline. So no specific dollar figure for you today, Brad, but we are taking all that into consideration.
All right, that's good. That's smart.
I have a question, Brad. I'm not an attorney, but legality, or is that common practice? You have a business, one name legally, and then everything else is a different name?
You can do DBAs, you know, doing business as. So
Okay.
I'm sure Tom and Mike have figured that out. So
Absolutely. So legally, like on a contract, you're going to see Lorraine Port Authority, but
Okay.
to the public eye, you're going to see Lorraine Port and Finance Authority. So
Tiffany?
doing business as doing a DBA, correct?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Brad,
Yes.
this is Neil. I have a question. When we come up for bond renewals, will we be using our new name?
That's a good question. I'm assuming we probably will.
That was a good
I mean-
question. And that would be the intent, is to use the new name, but we'll
Yeah,
work
makes
through.
it certainly would make sense to me to do that. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? These are all good questions.
Are we going to be redoing the logo at some point? I know how much love there is for the current logo. But is that something that you guys are looking into also?
We talked long and hard about redoing everything right now today, and we decided against it. We thought we put a lot of time, money, and effort into the last logo, and it was much more important to rebrand our name and our agency and what we do than necessarily the image that we go behind. So we are not today, nor in the near future, going to rebrand the logo entirely, though it would be a consideration maybe in the future.
Okay, fantastic. Any other questions? Okay, the fellowship case study.
All right, so this is another item that I'm hoping to get your blessing on. I've already talked through this with Tom, and he is A-okay with it. So many of you might know that earlier this year, I was accepted into a national fellowship. It's a national fellowship for women in development finance that focuses on really being focused on development finance and getting a good education and project and development finance. So through this fellowship, Tom did sponsor me to be in this fellowship. We are working on a project that is based around a revolving loan fund that is called a character-based revolving loan fund. And the project that we're doing, we're hoping to have a case study agency to go through the process of putting together a character-based lending program. So this is a relatively different type of revolving loan program, and it's a very interesting one and a very successful program at that. It goes hand in hand with our strategic plan to set up a revolving loan fund. It's just instead of being a very traditional revolving loan fund, it would be a little bit different. So right now with the fellowship, we are working through putting together best practices for this type of loan fund. And we're hoping to use the Port Authority as the case study for that. So the fellowship that I'm a part of has said that in order really to feel comfort in having a case study agency, they'd like the blessing of the organization to make sure that it would be okay that if we did use the Port Authority as a case study to set up this revolving loan fund for our agency, that the information that we gathered and then put into this report document would be allowed to be in this document. So I'm hoping that the agency would allow us to do this. Regardless if you say yes or no, we're still going to go down the path of exploring character-based lending, putting together best practices. And then my recommendation is eventually going to be to Tom that we should go ahead and put this into practice anyway, because it's an ideal fit for our city and our community members. So I think it just aligned up perfectly. It fits in our strategic plan. Everything about it makes a lot of sense. So Tom already said yes. He said, yeah, absolutely. But he, before writing a letter saying yes, that we could do this, he said he wanted to get a motion from the board approving this as well.
So just so I'm clear, we're asking them to, the board to approve a fellowship case study based on a revolving loan fund for the city of Lorraine?
Based on setting up a revolving loan fund for the Port Authority.
For the Port Authority. And how does this get funded?
Yeah, so we are looking at a lot of different aspects. So first of all, revolving loan funds of this type of fund are set up a lot through having the community banks actually give a line of credit to an agency. So we have been in talks with banks, community organizations, and we'll be capitalizing this through all of that on top of potentially EDA funds. So that's kind of part of the process that I'm working through with the fellowship is what is the best way? What is the best way for an agency to go about capitalizing a character-based lending program? So I will tell you, I don't have all the answers today. I'm learning a lot in the process. I mean, that's part of being a part of the fellowship. But I will tell you that I do think that based on the best practices of the agencies that I have talked with, that I do think it's very possible for us to capitalize this. And what we're looking at is probably $1 million capitalization with eventually getting up to at least $2 million to really make this a break-even program. And I think it's absolutely feasible. I've had individuals already looking and working with me that think that within a 3-month time frame, we can have this up and running. I think that's a little aggressive, but I think it's very, very possible.
Are you going to have a committee set up then to determine who gets the loans and qualifying loans and how do you follow up on it and all that good stuff?
Absolutely. So that's an entire process that we'll be going through before, before this agency actually has a character-based revolving loan fund. There's a whole entire process and procedures and application and how do you say yes or no? There's internal review committees that then go to external review committees. The external will have to be set up. So there's a lot of processes in place already that I think best practice has shown that those work. And that's what I would intend to set up for our agency. So that would be a part of this couple of month process where we're putting it in place. And I would be documenting all of that for this to eventually go into a report that we would be presenting through this fellowship.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Tiffany, what's the character-based part? What does that mean?
Absolutely. So we will get into this a lot more in depth. Your September board meeting, I have every intention of having a full presentation on character-based lending so you get a really great grasp of that. But in general, character-based lending is focused more on the individual and the business than necessarily the credit score behind that number behind a person. So traditional lending, you think when you go to a bank, you try to get a mortgage and you walk in and they say, okay, give me all these documentations, and they run it through a formula and say, yes or no, we're going to give you this amount of money. Character-based lending is not formed that way. And though you've probably never heard of character-based lending because it's really not popular, you actually can't find a really great example of character-based lending in Ohio at all. It's very, very popular in Europe, and it's slowly started to come to the United States. So I have an agency that we're modeling a lot of this out of the United States, Colorado Lending Source. They have a very successful character-based lending program, and I am happy to send that link out so you can start to review their agency and see what they do. But in September, you're going to get a full education of this, and I'll be able to answer all of those questions more in depth on what the process looks like, how you say yes, how you say no, not basing it on that. Here's my number. Is that good enough to get these dollars or not?
Okay. Yeah, please send that out to me. And I think the whole board ought to look at that resource too.
Absolutely.
Thank you very
Tiffany,
much.
Will we get that prior to our meeting and not just at the meeting? Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll send out that link so you guys can look at that agency by tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you.
Do we want to hold off approving this fellowship case study until everybody has a chance to look at the information? Or do we want to put it up for motion now?
Is it going to delay anything if we wait?
No, I wouldn't say it's going to delay anything. I mean, realistically, like I said, whether you bless our agency being a part of this fellowship as a case study or not, I'm still going to personally be going through this fellowship, thinking about how I can apply this to our agency. I mean, that's one of the main reasons.
It's more informational based, right? We're not committing anything. We're just gathering information. Okay.
Absolutely. So really the idea here is that this report, this final product, is going to be a report on character-based lending and best practices with hopefully a case study of the Lorraine Port Authority, the Lorraine Port and Finance Authority, and what processes we went through in deciding to enter into a character-based lending program or not to. And then further, let's say we do enter into a character-based lending program and we decide that this is the right path. What does that look like? What best practices did we decide to do? So just think of, very similar to the Ariel on Broadway project, where we're not able to go to certain events. We're able to go to the Brownfield conference and say, look, here's this project we did, and here's the best practices and lessons learned to help educate people on the do's and don'ts for a project for financing. That's what we would be in this report. It's just do's and don'ts listed out in a best practice guide for character-based lending. So it's just that educational material, no commitment on yes, doing this, no doing this. I mean, ideally, we'll have a character-based lending program that will be successful at the end of this. That would be the goal. I don't want to go through all of this to set up a program that doesn't work or we don't get capitalized or anything like that, because that's not part of our strategic plan.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Based on her answer and discussion there, I'd like to make a motion to approve the fellowship case study.
Okay, so we have a motion by Neil Summers for the fellowship case study to develop a revolving loan program for the Port Authority. Can I get a second?
Al Zagans will second.
Al Zagans, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Next,
Thank you.
economic development work session.
Yeah, so I am just going to throw in a quick update here for you before the work session. I just want to let everyone know we haven't talked about the Kelly's Island project in quite some time. So I just wanted to let everyone know that it's going very well. Actually, today was our keel lay date. So that is a major milestone in getting this vessel built. Basically, that means a whole lot of steel got cut and put into piles and it's ready to get assembled. So we are moving right along with it, not running into too many problems, very typical, a little bit of design change, but the project is going very well. So I just wanted to give that quick update there. As we keep on going, when I have some photos to share and whatnot, we'll keep everyone updated and apprised of what's going on there. So the economic development work session, so about a meeting or two ago now, we threw out the resolution for the economic development revenue funds that we wanted to start talking about in regards to how we were going to allocate those funds coming in and out. And it was consensus that we definitely wanted to have a work session on this. So we pushed it off, hoping that things would open up so that we could have a work session in person. That doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. So we don't want to wait anymore. So we've just gone ahead and set a date for September 1st. So that's the Tuesday prior to our next September meeting to have that work session. And we did agree that it was going to be a work session for the entire board. So hopefully everyone will be able to put that on their calendar and attend. But prior to that meeting, if everyone can take a look at that resolution again that we had drafted originally, provide any feedback or comments so we can compile that all together so we have something better to work off of, considering it's going to be a virtual work session. So it's going to be a little bit interesting, not as seamless as all of us sitting in a room, but we do want to get that in the works. So just mark it on your calendar and we'll see you then.
What's the time?
5 p.m.
Thank
Do
you.
remember- I'm sorry. Do you remember that resolution number?
We never passed the resolution.
Never passed it. Okay.
No, we don't have it official or signed or anything, but I can send out the like the Word document to everybody.
That'd be awesome.
No problem.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything else? Tiffany?
No, that's all for today.
Great, thank you. Good reports. Thanks for the update. We're going into report of committees, Contract Management Committee. We had the ODNR Public Enhancement Grant. Kelsey, you gonna talk about that?
Yes. So back a couple of meetings ago, it actually might have been in either May or June that we initially discussed this. So this was the paddle enhancement grant. I think at the last meeting in July, Tom had mentioned that we actually received it. Stephanie Costco with the Loco Yaks did a majority of the work on it, though we filed it as the Port Authority. So I was heavily involved in it as well, at least with the submitting it. So she and I now are hoping to work together for this grant. It's a total of $32,175, and it will cover an ADA accessible kayak launch ramp over at Riverside Park. The grant is refundable. So what Tom, I think, was planning on was the project would be slated for sometime in 2021. We would, I think, do an advancement of funds with Yvonne, and then the money would come back to us following the completion of the project. I think the project needs to be completed by, June 30th of 2021.
So I always get, I guess, irritated when we're financing things in advance. I'm not sure what's our guarantee that it gets done. Do we have, I mean, it's not a big project, but we're financing it to get advanced. Why? What's the purpose? Do we know?
Right, yeah, absolutely, Brad. Because we have to, that's how the grants work. I mean, in general, most of the grants that you have are reimbursable grants. So you pay for the project to be done and then you're reimbursed it. Your agreement, so the resolution you have in your agreement basically guarantees that as long as you spend the money appropriately, you will get reimbursed.
Guaranteed by the federal government or the state?
The state. This is by the state. And so the agreement is with the state that we'll get the money as long as we finish the project. So really finishing the project, I'm going to say, is on Kelsey. So as long as our office and employees do the project appropriately, then.
Right, I understand it's not Kelsey, yeah.
Yeah.
You're a contractor now, Kelsey, too? Is that what you do on the side?
Jack of all trades now.
What is the next resolution number?
24.
Okay, do you want to read the resolution or do you have it in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
A resolution authorizing the executive director or his designee to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Division of Parks and Watercraft for the addition of a hand-powered watercraft launch infrastructure at Riverside Park through the 2020 Paddle Enhancement Grant Program.
So board members, we have an ODNR Paddle Enhancement Grant Agreement, resolution number 2020-24, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 24. Motion to approve? By Mr. Nielsen? Second? By Mr. Bancek? Second by Mr. Bancek. Roll call vote, please.
Steve Bancek,
Aye.
Roberto Davila,
Aye.
Matt Kuzner,
Aye.
Fred Mullins,
Aye.
Carl Nielsen,
Yes.
Neil Summers.
Yes,
Am I to understand that John Viard or Jeff Zellers is not here?
John Viard is here.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay. And Al Zagans,
Yes.
that's 8 ayes.
Yes, Jeff is absent.
Yep. Fantastic. Okay, resolution passed. Good job. All right. Anything else from the Contract Management Committee? Crickets. Okay.
For me,
Good.
no. I don't know who the, or
No,
if the
no,
chairman.
I know. I wasn't referring to you.
Okay, thanks.
Strategic Development Plan Committee.
No report.
No report. Marketing and Public Affairs Committee.
I'll be moving forward with the survey issue.
yay.
I'm very happy to participate.
Good.
So I'll reach out, and I have some interesting ideas, and I'm interested in hearing interesting ideas. So I think we could make this as much fun as we can make it informational. And I think that's important when you're trying to gather good information. So you'll be hearing from me shortly.
Fantastic. Thanks, Steve. Okay, Ground Maintenance and Capital Improvement Committee.
No report.
Financial Planning and Audit Committee. Anybody?
Actually, we were not able to go over the finances or the bank rec, so we can just move this till next month if that's okay with everybody.
Okay, so that was the July.
July, yes, sir.
2020. Okay. And then Bylaws and Personnel Committee.
Yes, we have some things Yvonne will go over with some things we need to add to current policies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody should have received them in an updated, sent out, I think it was today or yesterday.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was today.
Today.
First of all, the audit, the field work is complete, so now it's down to her bosses to review. So that's good news. Everything seemed to go very smoothly. She did have one comment that although we have a board approved public records policy, it was not a part of our personnel policy manual, and she would like to see it in the manual. So that's one thing that we did add in there. And then when I was doing some training for Auditor State, we're doing it online this year. In one of them where it talked about policies, they said if you had petty cash that you really need to have policies in place. I talked to Neil as well as Mike Broski and had him to review things. Mike Broski came up with some very good questions about accountability, internal controls, this, that, and the other. So I put a petty cash request form up in place, sent it to Mike to review, as well as to review the other policy. Tom helped me work up the personnel or the petty cash policy. Then we went with Mike and we did some more changing to that. And I did send I had Kelsey to send the actual form for petty cash receipts. And then also the changes. I put it all in notes because sometimes it's very hard to hear through a Zoom meeting. So I actually listed the page numbers. Neil actually changed it, petty cash, to do quarterly and then annually. That was a good point. And then we had just some grammatical things that we needed to change. Do you guys want me to go over those? Or are you guys good with those?
Yeah, board, it's up to you. Do you want to go over them?
We can. So the first
Well,
one
no,
is.
I was asking the board if they wanted to go over them. Is
I'm sorry.
Anybody has a desire to go over them?
My only change would be to remove Tom's name. And all of the other articles for our policies and procedures, we don't list anybody's name. So just include or just have executive director and that's it. Because we don't have Tiffany's name, we don't have Kelsey, Yvonne, we don't have anyone's name labeled in policies and procedure. Right.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be.
That's a good point.
Good point.
I have that in petty cash. Is that correct?
I believe so. Go back to it. No, that was under public records policy, the first
Oh.
paragraph.
Yeah, petty cash
Oh.
is,
That is our policy, though.
That's not being edited.
Well, that's up to you guys. If you guys want to change the policy, we can just say executive director.
Well, no, it's highlighted in red, so I assumed that all of that was being added.
All that is being added, but the policy that the board approved actually has Tom's name in it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we can change that if you want. That is not a problem.
actually, I think it's a good idea to put executive director rather than name.
I agree.
Okay. Okay.
That's a great idea.
I think, doesn't Robert's rule say that that's what we're supposed to do? Use the title, not the individual?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're voting, are you going to do two different votes? One to change the actual policy and one to change the personnel manual? Or
Sure, why not?
Yep.
I'd rather do that. That way we're covered.
You're
So
covered.
we have a motion to change our policy on, what was it again?
Designation.
The personnel policy and procedure manual.
Okay, so we have a motion before us to change the policy and personnel manual. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
That was by who? I'm sorry.
Neil.
Neil, second.
Sorry.
I'll second it. It's John.
Okay, John, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And then I think the second motion was to remove Tom's name and put in the title. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I get a motion to do that?
Motion.
Motion by Steve Bancek, second by
Neil.
Neil Summers. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Any other business?
Just a question for the staff regarding the rebranding. Were you guys planning on changing the URL of the website?
We're working through that right now.
Okay, well, just to be safe, I bought them. So let me know who I can transfer them to. Just rather be safe than sorry.
You can use them both, can't you?
Yeah,
I mean, we do with our name change, we receive in the old credit union as well as the new. So.
right. I just wanted to buy up the URL before somebody else had a chance to. So
Yeah. How much you gonna charge us for that?
we'll get
There's
to
a petty
that.
cash form here.
We'll
so-
talk about it in the finance committee.
All right.
I'll be fair.
Okay.
Also, just a note, I made some changes to the different committees. John, I added you to, and I don't know which ones, I don't have it in front of me, but Kelsey can get that information to you. And I think.
I have it in front of me.
Okay, so just to make you aware that you are part of these committees as they have committee meetings. Any other business, any other public comment, anything that we want to talk about, anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
By Neil Summers, second.
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Roberto Davila. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye. No.
Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thanks,
Thank
Brad.
you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Good night.
Yep.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Good
You
job,
too.
everybody.
Bye-bye.